Well, after being insulted by U.S. President Donald Trump, NBA superstar LeBron James is getting support from an unlikely person. First Lady Melania Trump has broken ranks with her husband to praise James for his philanthropic efforts. Let's bring in Laura McQuillan to break down the war of words. Let's walk us through what happened, Laura.
Well, John, many details to work through here, but people are asking, is Melania Trump taking sides? And is she in LeBron James's corner? Well, let me take you back a few days. On Monday, LeBron James sat down with Don Lemon from CNN for an interview that focused on his charitable contributions to his hometown of Akron, Ohio. But during that interview, they also turned the conversation to politics, and LeBron James had some stern words about Donald Trump. He accused the US president of trying to divide Americans, saying he was using sport to do so. And as a bit of context, LeBron James has come out in support of Colin Kaepernick and of Steph Curry in the past when they've been under attack from Donald Trump, those two sports players. But it seems this time around, the CNN interview was the straw that broke the camel's back. We saw Donald Trump up late on Friday night tweeting about it. And here's what he said. LeBron James was just interviewed by the dumbest man on television, Don Lemon. He made LeBron look smart, which isn't easy to do. I like Mike. Now, that appears to be a reference to Michael Jordan, obviously rivaling LeBron James for the greatest basketball player of all time. Now, Michael Jordan himself came out quickly in support of LeBron James, and a short time later, so did Melania Trump. Here's a statement that her spokeswoman issued. It said, "It looks like LeBron James is working to do good things on behalf of our next generation, and just as she always has, the First Lady encourages everyone to have an open dialogue about issues facing children today." Now, LeBron James in that interview talking about a new public school he's just opened, and Melania Trump isn't ruling out paying it a visit. It's worth pointing out as well that this isn't the first time that she has contradicted her husband. Back in June, she actually issued a statement saying that she was disappointed by the separations of migrant families and their children. That was viewed by many as a criticism of her husband's policies. But Donald Trump was actually in Ohio, LeBron James's stamping ground, last night for a campaign rally, and he did not once mention LeBron James. Even though James is leaving town, moving to LA, it appears Donald Trump knows he's a hometown hero. So a lot of details there to unpack, John, and we'll be keeping an eye on just what happens next.
Well, joining us now is Jeff Mason. He's the Reuters White House correspondent, and he joins us from where it is all happening these days in Washington, D.C. Jeff, thanks for joining us. We always turn to you in times to help sort of understand all that is going on around this. We can talk about LeBron's rift with, if there ever was a relationship with the president, but first we want to show you a tweet of a series of tweets, and he's on a tear this morning from the U.S. president, this dealing specifically with, and there it is there, fake news reporting, a complete fabrication that I am concerned about the meeting my wonderful son Donald had at Trump Tower. This was a meeting to get information on an opponent totally legal rather, and done all the time in politics, and it went nowhere, and I did not know about it. Going on in other tweets to talk about rigged witch hunts, et cetera, et cetera. This has been quite a week. It's hard to jump in, but this is the latest news. What do you make of this?
Well, I make of it that he's watching closely the reports about what the investigation into possible collusion between his campaign and Russia is leading to. And in this case, he's responding to this particular meeting that has really apparently been one of the focuses of Robert Mueller and his team. And of course, the president, when he feels under pressure, often lashes out at the media and uses the media as a scapegoat, and that's what he's doing there.
Another aspect that we're looking at today is this apparent rift between the president and his comments that he made about LeBron James and Don Lemon from CNN on the day that LeBron James opened his school for underprivileged children, and the comments being made by the First Lady. This is becoming a separate storyline, isn't it? The potential rift, at least in public opinion, between the First Lady and the president.
Well, I can tell you that Melania Trump does have a history of occasionally breaking with her husband on things, and the reporter just before us mentioned that with regard to child separation from their parents at the border. In this particular case, I don't think it's an accident that Melania Trump's spokeswoman released that statement and suggested that Mrs. Trump would be willing to go to LeBron's school. That is indeed, I think, sort of a backhanded way of telling her husband, cut it out.
This all, in fact, may be fog. It does boil down to what happens at the ballot box. And, of course, there is a ballot box question in Ohio, a potentially blue state, or I should say red state going blue. What do you make of that special election, the fact the president was there trying to boost the Republicans' chances?
That's right. So the president was in Ohio last night campaigning for the Republican candidate in a state that voted for him, Ohio, in 2016. It's not necessarily a red state. It's traditionally a swing state. And that's one reason why it's a state that's very important to candidates of both parties. This particular race is for a seat in the House of Representatives that has been held by Republicans for over 30 years. So it shouldn't be a seat that is potentially a toss-up. But the election, according to polls, is quite close. The Democrat has been doing a better job of fundraising than the Republican. And so the president went there last night to try and boost his chances. And it's also an effort on the president and the White House's side to prevent what could be a very damaging loss to Republicans leading into the November midterm elections, when Republicans are worried about a so-called blue wave in which Democrats might capture the House back.
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit, because we're just a little over 90 days away from that broader test of the mandate and potentially the House and Senate votes and numbers that get elected there. How all-consuming are those midterms in Washington, where you are?
Well, that's a great question. They're certainly all-consuming and will be in the fall. Certainly everyone in Congress who is running for re-election or running for election for the first time, who aren't yet members of Congress, they will be focusing entirely on that race. And the White House is focusing very much on those races as well, because it has massive implications for what President Trump will be able to do in the second part of his term. If the House of Representatives, for example, becomes a body that is controlled by Democrats, that will affect subpoena power for Democrats. That will affect whether or not the House would support any legislative initiatives that he has. The same for the Senate. Now, the Senate, according to polling and political analysts, is less likely to move towards Democrats. But even so, both races in both houses are critical to the president's agenda and to Republicans' ability to get their agenda through.